She walked in smiling, like nothing had happened, like the world hadn't just collapsed inside my chest. "Hey," she said softly, tossing her purse on the counter. Lunch ran long. Lunch, that's what she called it. Lunch. The clock behind her blinked. 4:52 p.m. She was gone for 4 hours. 4. And somehow, I was supposed to believe it was sandwiches and laughter with her old friend. I stood there by the sink, dish towel in my hand, pretending to dry a plate I'd already wiped 3 times. The air felt heavier than usual, like it was pressing down on my lungs. The kitchen light hummed above us, filling the silence she wouldn't touch. "Everything okay?" she asked. Her voice had that airy brightness, the one people use when they're lying but still trying to sound casual. I nodded once. She smiled again, wide, plastic, the kind of smile that hides a secret behind its teeth. Her lipstick was new. Not the color I knew, not the soft coral she always wore for me. This was deeper, bolder, a red that looked stolen from someone else's fantasy. I caught it right then, the faint trace of cologne that wasn't mine. That was when my hands started shaking. I wanted to believe I was imagining it, that the stress from work, the distance between us, the little things I'd been ignoring, they were twisting my perception. But deep down, I knew. I'd known for weeks, the sudden girls' nights. The late returns, the glowing phone screen she'd tilt away whenever I walked by. You tell yourself you're paranoid, that love deserves trust. You want so badly to be wrong. But that night, standing under the kitchen light, I realized something. Love can blind you, but silence buries you alive. Dinner was quiet. I barely touched my food. Rachel kept scrolling through her phone, smiling at something she didn't show me. When I finally spoke, my voice came out thin, flat. "Who's Ethan?" The fork froze halfway to her mouth. "What?" she whispered, eyes darting up. "Ethan," I said again. "The guy who texts you late at night, the one you met for lunch today." She blinked slowly. Then she laughed, an uneasy, breathy sound that hit like glass cracking. "Daniel, are you serious right now?" I stared at her. And for the first time in our 7-year marriage, I saw her lie to me without flinching. The silence stretched. Her laugh died. Then something changed in her expression, her jaw set, eyes hardened. "You've been checking my phone?" she asked quietly. I didn't answer, because the truth is I had. Not because I wanted to, but because the distance between us had become unbearable. Because every night she turned away from me in bed, I felt her slipping further, pixel by pixel, message by message. "Rachel," I said, my voice shaking, "just tell me the truth." She sighed long, heavy, then looked away, staring at the window like she might find the words outside somewhere. "Ethan's just someone I met at the firm," she said finally. "We get lunch sometimes. He listens. He makes me feel." She stopped herself, but I already heard it. The one word that split everything apart. He makes me feel. You don't forget the moment your marriage dies. It doesn't explode, it exhales. Quietly, tragically. Like a candle snuffed out in the middle of a prayer. I pushed my chair back, the scrape cutting through the silence. "Feel what, Rachel?" "Something I don't." She flinched, then met my eyes. And for the first time in months, she didn't look sorry. "Daniel, you've changed. We've changed. You used to be, I don't know, alive. Lately, you're just safe, predictable. I feel trapped in routine." There it was, the justification, the polished poison, safe, predictable. Words that sound gentle until they're used to excuse betrayal. The sound of rain started tapping against the kitchen window, the kind of slow drizzle that feels like the world is crying for you. "I'm not cheating," she added softly. But her voice cracked at the end, and that's how I knew she was. I didn't yell, didn't throw anything, didn't demand to see her phone. I just nodded because sometimes silence hurts louder than any scream. That night I lay awake on my side of the bed. Rachel's breathing was even steady. I wondered if she was dreaming about him, about Ethan's cologne, his laugh, his words. I stared at the ceiling and counted the spaces between her breaths. You never realize how big your bed is until the person next to you is already gone. The next morning, she moved around the house like a ghost of routine, coffee, makeup, car keys, as if nothing had happened. Before leaving, she turned at the door. "Daniel, please don't make this into something it's not," she said. Her voice trembled just slightly, enough to make me hope for a second that she might still care. But then she smiled again, that same fake smile from yesterday, and walked out. I stood at the window, watching her car disappear down the street. The rain had stopped, but everything still smelled like it. Wet asphalt, cold air. Quiet endings. That's when my phone buzzed on the counter. One new message, from Ethan. A preview flashed before I could stop myself from reading it. "She said she'd talk to you tonight. Don't let it get messy." My heart dropped into my stomach. She was planning this, planning to tell me something final. I didn't reply. I didn't throw the phone. I just stood there. Sometimes the worst heartbreak isn't loud. It's the silence right before your life changes forever. And that night, it did. The next few days moved like fog. Thick, slow, directionless. Rachel left earlier for work, came home later, and spoke less. It wasn't a fight anymore. It was something worse, silence that filled the rooms, pressing against the walls like smoke. I tried to pretend it was temporary, that she'd come back from whatever storm she was drifting through. But deep down, I knew when someone's heart leaves first, the body just takes longer to catch up. I started noticing small changes. Her toothbrush gone from the holder, half her clothes missing from the closet. The picture frames, the ones from our honeymoon, quietly replaced with neutral art. When I asked, "Are you moving things?" she just said, "I'm decluttering. It's time for a reset." Reset, that word hit harder than any argument. Because you only reset when you're done trying to repair. It happened on a Thursday. She came home late again, almost midnight, smelling faintly of someone else's perfume and laughter. I was sitting on the couch, staring at the muted TV screen. She looked at me, then sighed, like she'd been rehearsing this moment for weeks. "Daniel," she said softly, "we need to talk." I nodded. I didn't trust my voice enough to speak. She sat across from me, folding her hands in her lap. Her eyes were red, not from crying, but from guilt. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "I feel like we're just pretending." There it was, the line every betrayed spouse hears right before the freefall. I swallowed hard. Is it him? She looked away. That was my answer. I remember the next few seconds in flashes, her voice trembling. Her saying things like, "I didn't mean to fall for him," and "I just wanted to feel alive again." Words that made my chest feel hollow. I didn't yell, didn't beg, didn't throw her phone against the wall like I wanted to. I just sat there watching the person I loved confess to killing us. When she finished, I said quietly, "So, what now?" She hesitated, then she said it. "I'm moving out, just for a while. I need space to think." Space to think. That's what she called it, but I knew she wasn't thinking, she was leaving. The next morning, she packed her bags, 2 suitcases, a duffel, her laptop. I stood by the door, numb, watching her slide her ring off her finger. She placed it on the table like it was a receipt she no longer needed. "Daniel," she whispered, "please don't hate me." I smiled faintly. "Too late for that. I already miss you." She looked like she wanted to cry, but didn't. Then she left. The sound of the door closing was softer than I expected. But the silence that followed, that was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. Days blurred together. I kept waking up expecting to hear her brushing her teeth, humming off-key in the shower, complaining about the coffee being too bitter. But all I got was quiet, the kind that makes your own heartbeat sound intrusive. I started cleaning things that didn't need cleaning, fixing things that weren't broken, because movement, any movement, was better than standing still. A week later, her sister called. "Have you talked to Rachel?" she asked. I said no. She sighed and said, "She's staying with someone named Ethan. You didn't hear that from me." That name, that same cursed name. It felt like a knife twisting in slow motion. I thanked her, hung up, and sat in the dark for an hour, staring at the wedding photo still hanging on the wall. 2 people smiling, believing they'd found forever. Not realizing forever had an expiration date. Social media became my punishment. You'd think you'd avoid it, but heartbreak makes you curious, masochistic, even. I saw a photo 2 weeks later. Rachel at some rooftop bar, wine glass in hand, laughing, Ethan's hand, unmistakable, resting on her waist. The caption, "New Beginnings." I stared at it until my eyes blurred. She looked happy, genuinely happy. And I hated that I still wanted her to be, even if it wasn't with me. Nights were the worst. I'd sit on the porch, whiskey in hand, listening to the cicadas hum against the silence. Our house still smelled faintly of her shampoo, lavender. I caught myself reaching for her side of the bed more than once. Grief is strange. It doesn't come all at once. It trickles in. It shows up when you're microwaving dinner for one, when you see her hair tie in a drawer. When your phone buzzes and for a split second you hope it's her. One night I got a text, unknown number, just one sentence, "You deserve better than her." No name, no context, just that. I didn't reply, didn't block it. I just stared at it, wondering who sent it and why it made my chest ache in a different way. Maybe Ethan's guilt was leaking through. Or maybe someone else knew something I didn't. 2 months passed. Rachel never called, never texted. Not even to ask if I was okay. But pain, I learned, has a strange way of turning into strength when it runs out of tears. I started running every morning. Picked up an old guitar I hadn't touched in years. Started talking to people again, small talk at the coffee shop, nods at the neighbors. Life didn't heal. It just began to move again. Slowly. Then one evening, as I was taking out the trash, a car pulled up in front of the house. A familiar one, silver sedan, the same one she'd driven away in. My breath caught. The headlights dimmed. The door opened. Rachel stepped out, eyes red, hands trembling, mascara streaked. She was crying. And right then, standing under the porch light, I realized something. This wasn't the woman who left me smiling. This was someone else, broken, scared, and lost. The night had come full circle. But this time I wasn't sure if I still wanted her to stay. It took me a few seconds to move. Rachel stood by the car, the porch light spilling over her like a spotlight. Her hair was tangled, eyes swollen. The same woman who once waltzed in smiling now looked like someone who had forgotten how to breathe. Rachel. Her name left my mouth before I could stop it. She looked up. Daniel, her voice cracked halfway through my name. I walked toward her slowly. The air between us was cold and heavy, like it was holding its breath too. She clutched her purse against her chest, trembling. I didn't know where else to go, she whispered. And I swear part of me wanted to run to her, to hold her like I used to erase every bruise from her voice. But another part wanted to stay still, to let her feel the same silence she once left me drowning in. Inside, she sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the floor. Her hands fidgeted in her lap, twisting a tissue until it tore apart. I poured her a glass of water and set it on the table. She didn't touch it. I shouldn't be here, she said finally. Then why are you? I asked. She looked up, eyes glassy, lips trembling, because everything fell apart. The words hung there, fragile and raw. I didn't ask right away. I let her sit in the silence she had once gifted me so freely. Then I said quietly, "Is it him?" She nodded just once, a tiny broken motion that said everything. I waited. She spoke. "He lied to me, Daniel," she said. "About everything. He said he was divorced. He wasn't. He said he'd leave her for me. He didn't. I thought he loved me. I thought." Her voice collapsed. She pressed her hands to her face, sobbing quietly. I wanted to feel triumphant. I wanted to feel something, but all I felt was tired. She took a shaky breath. "I was stupid," she whispered. "I threw everything away for a fantasy. You never deserved what I did. I thought the grass was greener. Turns out it was painted." I leaned against the counter, watching her crumble. It's strange, the way heartbreak works. You imagine this moment, the apology, the tears, the justice. You think it'll heal you. But when it finally comes, it just reopens every wound you tried so hard to close. I finally spoke. "Rachel, why come here? You could have gone anywhere." She looked at me then, really looked at me. Her eyes were desperate, filled with the kind of regret that burns through pride. "Because this is still home," she said, "even if I broke it." Her voice cracked on the last word. We sat there in silence. The clock ticked softly in the background. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, whispering through the cracks in the window. She started talking again, slowly this time, about how Ethan ghosted her after his wife found out, how she tried to call him, how he blocked her, how she realized too late that she had traded love for attention. "He used me," she said through tears, "and I let him. I thought I was escaping a life that felt dull, but I ended up in one that was empty." She looked up, eyes red. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just didn't know where else to go." I sat across from her, elbows on my knees, staring at the woman who had once been my whole world. "You broke me," I said quietly. She nodded, eyes dropping. "I know. I spent nights wondering what I did wrong," I continued. "If I didn't love you enough, if I worked too much, if I got boring. But the truth is, you didn't want love, Rachel. You wanted noise. And when life got quiet, you went searching for chaos." Tears streamed down her face. "I know," she whispered again, "and I hate myself for it." Her voice cracked into a sob. "Daniel, I'm not asking for us to go back. I needed to see you, to say I'm sorry." Something inside me softened, not out of forgiveness, but from the exhaustion of carrying anger for too long. "I believe you," I said. She blinked in surprise. "But believing you doesn't mean I can forget," I added. She nodded. "Then what now?" That was the question, wasn't it? What now? What do you do when the person who destroyed your peace comes crawling back with a broken heart? I stood, pacing slowly, running a hand through my hair. Every instinct screamed to shut the door, to protect what little was left of me. But another part, the human part, remembered what it was like to love her. I looked at her still trembling on the couch, her makeup smeared, her heart spilled open. And I realized sometimes compassion isn't weakness, it's closure in disguise. I exhaled slowly. "You can stay," I said quietly. Her eyes widened. "But just for tonight." Her lips parted like she wanted to say thank you, but no sound came out. She just nodded, tears falling silently down her cheeks. I walked to the hallway and grabbed a blanket from the closet, placing it on the couch. She brushed my fingers as she took it, a soft, trembling touch that felt like a ghost of what used to be. "Daniel," she whispered. "Get some sleep," I said. "We'll talk in the morning." As I walked upstairs, I could still hear her quiet sobs drifting through the dark. And for the first time in months, the house didn't feel empty. It just felt haunted by what we were, by what we lost, by what couldn't ever be again. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for one night. Morning came softly. No dramatic sunrise, no golden rays through the curtains, just a dull, gray light pressing against the blinds. The kind of light that doesn't wake you up so much as remind you that the night is over. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee cooling beside me, listening to the faint creak of the couch upstairs. Rachel was still asleep. Or pretending to be. The house was silent again, but not the same kind of silence that used to hurt. This one felt still, peaceful almost, like the storm had finally passed, even if it left wreckage behind. I thought about everything that had happened, the laughter we used to share, the fights, the distance, the night she walked out smiling. And now, the night she came back crying. Funny how 2 moments can look so different yet hurt exactly the same. I heard footsteps on the stairs. She appeared in the doorway, blanket draped over her shoulders, eyes red but calmer than last night. "Hey," she said softly. "Morning," I replied, taking a sip of cold coffee. She sat down across from me, folding her hands like she was bracing for impact. "I didn't sleep much," she murmured. "Me neither." We sat in silence for a long time, two people who once shared everything, now struggling to share air. Finally, she spoke. "Thank you for letting me stay." I nodded. "It's fine." Her eyes filled again. "No, it's not, but thank you anyway." I looked at her, really looked. She looked smaller somehow, softer. Not the woman who betrayed me, not the one who justified it, just Rachel. Human, flawed, afraid. "You know," I said quietly, "I used to replay that night in my head, the night you told me about him. I'd imagine saying all the things I couldn't back then, the anger, the hate, the heartbreak." She looked down. "But last night, when I saw you like that, none of it mattered anymore." She glanced up, eyes wet. "Why?" "Because you already punished yourself more than I ever could." Her breath hitched. She reached out, hesitated, then let her hand fall back. "Daniel," she whispered, "I'll spend the rest of my life wishing I'd stayed." I exhaled, slow and quiet. "Then don't waste it wishing. Learn from it. Be better for you." She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. After a while she stood. "I should go," she said. Her voice trembled, but it wasn't from fear anymore. It was from acceptance. I walked her to the door. She paused there for a long second, fingers brushing the doorknob like she wasn't ready to touch the world yet. She turned to me. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I thought about it, really thought about it. Forgiveness used to feel like an impossible word, but now it felt like the only way to finally be free. "I already did," I said quietly. Her lips parted. "Why?" "Because I don't want to carry you with me anymore." She looked like she might break again. But instead, she just nodded, wiped her tears, and smiled, a small, honest smile, the first real one I'd seen in a long time. "Goodbye, Daniel." "Goodbye, Rachel." She opened the door, stepped out, and walked toward her car. The wind carried her hair across her face, and for a moment, she looked like the woman I fell in love with, before the lies, before the distance, before everything. Then she was gone. I stood there for a long time, staring at the quiet street, the empty driveway, the fading sound of her engine. The house behind me felt both empty and alive, like it was breathing again. I walked to the living room and noticed the ring still sitting on the table from months ago. I picked it up, held it in my palm, then set it in a small box beside the wedding photo, not out of bitterness, but as a reminder that love, even when it fails, still means something. I stepped outside. The air was cool, clean, the kind of air that smells like endings and beginnings. The sky was clearing. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the urge to check my phone. Didn't feel the ache of missing her, just a quiet sort of gratitude for having loved, lost, and learned. They say closure comes when you get answers. But maybe closure comes when you stop needing them. And as I locked the door behind me, a strange calm settled in my chest. Maybe I wasn't the same man she left. Maybe I never would be. But I was still standing, and that was